Well, good morning, Icon. We're so glad that all of you are joining us online today. And today I'm really excited because I have two really great people with me to have a conversation for this morning's message. So we're going to be talking this morning a little bit about kind of a continuation of a couple Sundays ago when we talked about the church and the purpose of the church and what we believe that to be. Today, we're just going to kind of talk about the ways in which the way that church has sort of shifted, especially over the past year and a half with COVID and how there's just been a lot of changes. And so we're just going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how it affected us personally, kind of what we see the church being, the value that we find in being a part of community. And then we'll just kind of see where things go. So if you all both want to take a second and introduce yourselves, just so everybody knows who they're listening to this morning, that would be great.
Hey, I'm Kim. I live in Hutto, Texas.
And Kim, how long have you been coming to Icon?
It's actually almost been about a year, roughly. Right before we moved to the Hutto area from El Paso is when we kind of started watching online, and we've watched since. A little on and off there. We tried to find a church in person, and then just came back with Icon because it just felt right.
Cool. Awesome. We're glad you're here.
Hi, I am Barrett. I live in New Braunfels, Texas, and I've been going to Icon since the first official service.
He's an old timer, been around for a while. Barrett is also on our elder board as well. So Barrett's been around for a while. So it's kind of cool. We have one person who's been around for the whole time, and then Kim is a little bit newer to the church. So it'll be great to get some differing perspectives this morning. So thank you guys so much for agreeing to be here and have this conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll go ahead and just launch right into our questions this morning. The first one is, I would love to hear from each of you a little bit about how would you personally define the purpose of the church? So I know, everybody has lots of ideas of what the church is supposed to be, but for you, when you think about the church, what do you think the church should be?
The first thing that kind of comes to my mind is the church should be there for the community and kind of be the hands and feet of Jesus, and there to help support the community and do outreach and everything.
Cool. Yeah, I love that about being in the hands and feet of Jesus, where it's like we're actively doing things to care for our community. Yeah, I like that.
I was going to say, whenever you were saying that, I was thinking, and this is kind of a nerdy science thing, but there's biology has this hierarchy of from atoms all the way up to organisms.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just it really got stuck in my head, this idea that the church is the next step. So you would say atoms, cells, tissues, organs, organisms, and then all of us make a church together. Kind of like what Paul was talking about, being a body. And I would say that body does have a community, and that we should be doing and not just being places, but doing and working towards the end goal, and kind of partnering with God to bring reconciliation and redemption to the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love you and your science brain bringing that example. I really, really like that. Yeah. I think I like how you both kind of brought in this element of action and doing, because I think for a lot of people, it's really easy for church to become something that as Christians we just consume, that it's it's, and the church is for us. I mean, I don't want it to seem like we aren't supposed to get anything out of it, because I think that's a huge part of it, is we go to church because it makes our life better, or at least I think that's why some people continue to go, is because obviously there's some sort of value there. But yeah, I like the idea of we're supposed to be the hands and feet of Jesus, actively doing things to show God's love, not just showing up and sitting in front of a screen or sitting in a pew or whatever, and just consuming everything, but that it's supposed to be us actively working together, to do good in the world and to bring restoration. Yeah, I love that. So obviously over the past year and a half, church has really shifted dramatically for a lot of us. There was a period of time where no churches were gathering in person. Everything was online, which was so unique for, I think, most churches. It kind of threw us for a loop in a lot of ways. And particularly with Icon, it's a lot has changed for us, just going from, only being in person to now, for the most part, only being online. So it's a big shift. So how have you each kind of walked through that over the past year and a half? How has the shift in the way church is being done, how has that affected you personally? And that can be either in a positive way, or maybe there were things about it that were really hard. Maybe share a little bit with us about what that's been like for you over the past year and a half.
It's been pretty hard, like not being able to be in person every Sunday. Before we moved to this area, the church we were going to in El Paso, my wife and I would go every morning, and we would usually volunteer the first 2 services, and then we would attend the 3rd service. And like just being there and being an active part of, I would serve the coffee at the coffee shop. She would do the auditorium and help seat people. So just being able to see all of the faces as they come in was a big thing for us. So it's definitely been really hard not being around all of the church people every Sunday.
Sure. Yeah, that's been huge, because that's such a big part of it. It's being able to be in each other's presence and like have that personal interaction that just, it's how you can't really replace that, like yeah, I agree. It has been a really, really hard shift for sure. Yeah. Barrett, what about for you?
For me, similarly, I really look forward to the Sunday. That was a big time for me to see people I normally don't see, in everyday life. Like we all do things separately, and then we all kind of converge on the church together. And so having, the dialogue and the conversations and just catching up with people, also helping out with sound and things like that, being a part of those teams and seeing those people. A lot of that connection just wasn't there because we weren't meeting in person. So, and then, after church, having conversations after the service is over and everyone just kind of goes to their car, and then some people strike up, hey, you want to go get lunch? And you go eat lunch with some people, or you go have a Bible study afterward. That's when I normally had my Bible study right after church. So that just all of that like connection and community just kind of vanished.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a hard year anyway for connection and community. It's like not only were we missing out on church, but it's like we were missing out on connection just across the board, and so it's definitely been really hard. I would agree with, I think for me too, it was really difficult. It's like it's just sometimes it feels like there's only so far that you can go across a screen, and you want to be able to be with each other. So that's been really challenging. And, I think it's kind of been, for me, it's been kind of both. And it's been really hard, and I've missed gathering so much. And also I have seen some things happen because we've been online that have been so incredibly beautiful, where we have gained people who are part of our Icon Church family now from all over, that, from Seattle, from Singapore, from Boston, from Dallas, Fort Worth area, like people who wouldn't, normally be able to attend it in person, but who now look at Icon as this is their home church. Like this is where they feel most connected. And so it's been really cool to see how even in the hard parts of like not being able to gather, there's also still been some really beautiful things that have come from it as well, you know? And so now moving forward, trying to go, okay, how do we continue to like move forward with trying to gather more for those who can, but also keep the online experience, keep people who only have the option to be online, for them to be able to stay connected as well, you know? So yeah, it's been just a really, really unique year for those of us who are involved with churches, for sure. So Kim, how long have you been like a churchgoer in general? Like how much of your life have you spent going to church?
I grew up in church, so pretty much my entire life, but when I became an adult, I kind of didn't go as often as I would have liked. Joined the Army, went when I was in basic training, but like the military churches are a little different than actual civilian side of church. So never really found a good church while I was, or any church that I connected with while I was away from, because I'm originally from Colorado, and never really found anything outside of Colorado as an adult until we started attending a church in El Paso, and went there from 2016 up until we moved here to Hutto. And it was a good church. We really loved going every Sunday, and we loved volunteering and helping out there. And then it just kind of changed because the pastors that were there, they retired, and the ones that took over, it just kind of changed the dynamic of that church. And it was hard, especially like when the pandemic started and everything. It was hard trying to find a church where we could connect again. And my stepmom is the one that actually told me about Icon when we were announced that we were moving out this way. So she sent us the Clarity link, and we watched it and immediately just knew that we needed to start watching you guys. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And Barrett, have you been part of church your whole life pretty much?
Yeah. I my grandmother taught Sunday school at the church that I went to. So yeah, I was there pretty much my whole life. A lot of people, they talk about like the one big salvation moment in their life, but I got saved like every Sunday for about 10 years. So I can't really pinpoint any big moment.
I think a lot of us, a lot of us who grew up in church can probably relate to that. It was like we got saved over and over again, just to be sure, Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. So obviously you guys, church has just been kind of a part of your life, since you were little. So even, throughout as your life has changed, as you've gone in different seasons of your life, why is it that, because, there's a lot of, the church is far from perfect. We know this. And I think, if we're paying attention, we have seen there has been a lot of good that the church has done. And there has also been a lot of harm that has been caused, through the church. And we've watched that, we are all aware, and we can all see how that happens. So even throughout all of those things, even, the ways in which the church has failed, the ways in which church has shifted and changed, why is it that each of you still choose to be a part of a faith community? What is it that draws you to being a part of a church? And then and in that too, like what is the value? Like what values do you hold that you gain from being a part of a faith community? Like why even do it? Why get online every week, even when that's hard? Like why continue to be a part of the church after all this time?
You go first this time, because I still got to think.
I would say the beginning would be, when we're talking about when I transitioned to college, that was a time where I had just come off of going to church very strong. I got here at Texas State, didn't have a church. I was looking for about 2 years, mostly just sleeping in and watching football. But during that time, like I would say that just God's just pursuit of me relentlessly, like it just always was there, and so that commitment to that and realizing that connection and wanting that relationship then led to, okay, well, if I'm going to be following Christ, if I'm going to be partnering with God, then I need to find a place where we're going to do the work. And that's what the church is. The church is where we all come together to do the work. We become part of the body, do the work. And so that is really kind of a reason why I'm connected with the church. I can't imagine a situation where I'm a Christian and I'm not a part of some group. It doesn't have to be a large numerical group, like whatever, but just a part of people assembling together or working together or doing something. And the online has changed a lot of the way we do things, but I think hopefully the way that we are still, worshiping, and we have a message and learning and sharing with each other. I think a lot of those principles, and even trying to meet when we can in person, we still carried on. It was very weird at first for me online because sometimes I don't understand the point of things like redundancy. Like I would say hi, but if I say hi to one person in the chat and I say to every person in the chat, it just seems redundant. Like, even though in real life you would say hi to everyone you see, but everyone can read it in the chat. And so it's like,
yeah,
do I have to say hi to everyone, or do I say, hey, everybody, or hey, y'all, or
you have to list everybody's individual name from now on when you say hi in the chat.
So that was very awkward to me, but I did know I wanted to be better at it and be a part of what was happening. And so that's
great.
I guess mine for me is just being part of a church, a group of people that are just trying to follow Jesus, that know that they're unworthy of it, but of the grace that he extends to us, but they at least strive to follow him. It's just always, I felt at home whenever I find that right community. I mean, we're all trying to do our best. We're all trying to follow Jesus and follow the way he, his commandments of loving and caring for others. And it's good to have like others around you that are trying to do the same in their lives and be the best that they can be, while also still knowing that they're broken and that they need a savior.
I really like what you said about like feeling at home, because that resonates with me too. Because I think I have had a lot of moments in the past few years where I have just been like, I'm done. Like, just wanted to quit church altogether. Because sometimes it's just hard, and sometimes being in community with each other, I mean, human beings, we have such a great capacity to love and care for one another. And we also have a capacity to really hurt each other, and so I think it's, like when you said that you feel at home, I'm like, I think that's what keeps bringing me back, and why I'm still here is because there is something about being a part of a faith community that makes me feel like I'm at home. And, it's risky because anytime we're in a place where, being in community requires vulnerability, and vulnerability, there's always risk there. But I just keep thinking that even through all the times where I've wanted to quit, or where, someone I've been hurt or frustrated or whatever, like, I just feel like there's just something, the beauty has far outweighed the pain for me. And I think, and it's that feeling of being home, yeah, that's really, really beautiful. I love that. And I think too, a little, so Barrett, you were talking a little bit about like how even like engaging online sometimes is tricky and awkward, and it feels not the same, and it's kind of hard sometimes. And I would absolutely agree with that. I think we've had to all kind of adapt to the way that things have shifted. But I think one thing that I've really liked about how things are now is, I will say, I greatly appreciate the simplicity of things. I appreciate, it's very much like, as with everything in our culture, like church is no different, and that oftentimes you're deemed successful if things are always moving up and to the right. Like, if it's like if you're growing in numbers and you're doing these next big thing and everyone knows who you are, and that's always deemed as being a successful church, is if you're larger numerically. I think for a lot of people, that's what people think of, is that, oh, that church is really big, they must be really successful. And sometimes churches that are maybe smaller, people are like, oh, I don't know, and what I have found with all of it is sort of this new definition for success. Like, to me, the things that used to matter about church are no longer the things that are important. Like having a very well produced service is no longer important to me. To me, what matters is that people are able to come and be fully who they are and find that connection with one another. Like Barrett, how you were talking about how we are the body of Christ. Like, we need each other. We need those relationships with each other. And Kim, when you were saying how like coming together with other people who are trying to follow Jesus too, and there's that kind of that camaraderie and that connection of coming together and doing it together. Like, yeah, those are all things for me that, I've had to make some big mental shifts when it comes to what really matters, when it comes to church, and the showy stuff, the production, all of that has kind of fallen away. And it's like, no, I think what really matters is that every person feels like they can be fully who they are, and that we can care for one another, and I've still finding that happening within our community. It's been really, really beautiful.
And it's how you brought up the size of a church. It's interesting because it seems like almost every church that we've really felt at home going to has been the smaller ones, because it seems like the smaller churches are the ones that are out there doing more for the community and not putting on a big show. And that's what we love about like you guys too, is just everything that you do, reaching out, asking if we need anything whenever you've seen that we were going through a hard time with Journey or anything like that. Like, that's what, to me, that's what a church should be, is checking in on their attendees and seeing how things are going, and asking if there's anything that they need. To me, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
That was one thing I was going to also say, is just that the support that you get. It's not like every single day, but it's kind of like the acrobats, and they do their thing, but whenever they fall, they have a net there. And I feel like that's the way the church has always been for me and people in it. Is they may not see me, I may not see them every day, but when I'm in a really bad spot, I know that I can depend on people at church to help me out.
Yeah.
So having that backup is always nice.
Yeah. And I think at the core, I really do think that what most people want is just, they want to be cared for. We want to have a place where we feel like we can all be cared for, and how sometimes we most need to be on the receiving end of that care. And sometimes we are in a position where we're able to give that care, and I think it's this beautiful kind of back and forth of like, giving and receiving, where we're just all caring for one another. And I think that's a beautiful thing, is even though we are mostly online, I think that that care is still happening and can still happen. Just because we're not able to gather in person every single week right now doesn't mean that we still can't faithfully care for one another. Nothing that hasn't changed, that we can still do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the final question. So we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about Icon, which we have been talking about Icon, but, currently the kind of where we're at and how things have been going for the past several months is it feels a little bit like we've kind of started over a little bit, because things have changed so drastically, from COVID to losing the building to all of that. It's caused us to have to really change how we do things. And it has felt a little bit like, we're kind of starting from scratch, and we're all a part of creating. We have the opportunity to kind of create. It's like, what do we think the church should be? We get to all be a part of creating that right now. Like we can move forward, and it's like we can do whatever we want to do, and so as you kind of think about that, as far as like Icon specifically, what are some things that you would like to see? Because here's the thing, like it's real easy sometimes for church to become, like we talked about earlier, where people become consumers, where it's like you walk in with this expectation of the pastoral team, the leadership team, whatever, they're going to, either put on the show, or they're going to preach the sermon, or they're going to tell me what to think, and then, or they're going to organize all these things, and we're just going to get to come and be a part of that. But I think really the beautiful thing about church is where it really is, it's all of our church. It's not like, oh, this church belongs to like the pastor and the staff and everyone else just kind of shows up. It's like, no, like we all get to be a part of creating what we want to see happen. So with that in mind, what would each of you like to see Icon be or do as we move forward? What are some things that it can be practically like, ooh, I would love to see Icon do this in the community, or even just kind of more on a communal level, more of a community level? What are some things that you would love to see Icon be or to do as we move forward?
Want to go first again?
So I think just continuing to really emphasize the online part, and now that people are able to meet a little bit more, having people physically host stuff in their house, which was kind of what we were going to start doing, and then all the numbers escalated. So going back to that idea of creating little pods or little groups of people,
like the watch party, the watch
yeah,
party.
a watch party, yeah.
Mhm.
And so instead of being on the host team, now you're literally the host of your host team
Yeah.
in your neighborhood. And so you're connecting directly with people in your sphere of influence, like whether it be your job or your neighborhood, and you're connecting with those people directly. And then continuing like the monthly or however often the group meetings are. I think those are awesome for everybody to get out and meet each other. Doing it on Sundays or other days, whatever people are available. Going out, like we attended the Juneteenth event, but doing things like that in the community that are even helping some group or being a part of something we're supporting, and having people kind of step up and say, hey, this is going to happen in this city. Who from Icon that goes to this city wants to go support this? Who from Icon from this city wants to go support this? And start kind of moving that way. And then maybe even we're still working on the production side of things, but having enough savvy people that can do it to have like kind of like live at whatever Icon's live at some apartment complexes kind of area, or live at City Park, or live at whatever, and kind of just hosting it around town in different areas, different cities, different neighborhoods, and kind of connecting with the community that way. So
Very cool.
I think one thing that I think would be kind of cool is like maybe if we were to do something once a year or something where we find just a family that's in need and maybe do either within the church or within the community, someone that goes to the church knows if they're in need, or just do some sort of helpful project for them, as like if they needed yard work done, or a painting, like painting rooms in the house, or if they were just in need of some sort of financial help or anything. If either, if that makes, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes total sense. Yeah.
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 But yeah, just like anyone that might be in need of something, anything, any kind of project that we can all kind of group together and plan to help them out somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. There it is again, like being the hands and feet of Jesus and coming together as a body to care for each other, you know? Yeah. And I think I love, I've been thinking a lot about that as far as like, because obviously we are, I mean, to be real honest, I don't even know yet how many people would call Icon Church home, just because we know we've only been gathering in person a couple different times, since the pandemic. And so it's kind of hard to know, but I think it is safe to say that we are a smaller faith community, and so I think sometimes, it can feel like we can kind of compare ourselves to what other churches are doing, or we can, it turns into that competition kind of comparison game, of seeing or feeling like we're not doing enough, or that can be really easy to fall into. But I think even just like if we were to do that, if there was a family that had some needs and we were to all rally together, it's like, gosh, that's a big deal, that to be able to even come alongside one family and say, how can we love you, support you, care for you? I think that's so beautiful, that we don't have to do these great big events, and we don't have to like have thousands and thousands of dollars at our disposal, to actually still be able to do good and to care for one another. We just might have to get a little bit more creative and, kind of think on a little bit of a smaller scale, but I don't think that's a bad thing, where we're just, I think, being very in tune and aware of the needs that are around us and in the ways that we are able to help meet those needs. Yeah. I love that. And just continue.
And even like if we even came up with like multiple projects, to where if it's a family or helping out with like a shelter or something, like a women's shelter or children's shelter or something like that, doing some sort of project with them to help out in any way.
Yeah. Yep. And there's, and that's what I love too, is like, I think I would much rather find organizations in the community that are already doing that work and then say, hey, how can we come alongside and serve you and partner with you, rather than trying to invent all of our own things, when it's like the community leaders and people that have been here, for a long time and are like putting in that work, like they know best what the community needs, and so, yeah, I love that, like us coming alongside as a support and saying, hey, what can we do? How can we help? How can we, serve you? And then to do that consistently, and I think there's so many opportunities there's so many organizations, partnering with schools, coming together, and how can we serve our teachers? How can we be a blessing and a benefit? That's like, we still have yet to go through and like kind of revamp some things. But when we first started the church, we have like this long list of our core values of like, here's what, here's who we are. But one of them that has always stuck with all of us is that the church should exist to be a blessing and a benefit to the community. And I think that's one great way we can do that, just being very aware and partnering with people. Yeah. I love that. Well, that is all the questions that I have. And I think we may have managed to actually keep this at a good length, which is that is a miracle. Despite all of our technical difficulties, which all of you watching, you didn't see, but there were plenty of them today. And then also just to all of you who are watching, I think the majority of you will probably be our out of town or our consistent online folks who are still, only engaging online. Feel free to, in the chat, anything that you have to add or to say about what you think the church should be or things that you would love to see Icon do and be moving forward. Feel free to put that in the chat. We'd love to hear from you because it's our church, it's all of us working together to be the hands and feet of Jesus. So thank you guys so much for your time and for your perspective and sharing that with us today. It's been really great.
When I think about that conversation, the word that comes to mind is possibility. There are so many things that we could do as a faith community. And I just want you to know that whatever drew you here to be a part of Icon, or to maybe just kind of be on the edge to see or hear a couple of things that are going on, we're so glad that you're with us. And we want you to feel comfortable to be able to engage within the community as fully as you desire. And part of that is allowing possibility to take hold, because we get the privilege and the honor to be able to participate in the work of reconciliation. And so as you reflect this week on maybe what you value within the church, and specifically what you value within Icon Church, let's also reflect about how we can continue to be the hands and feet of Jesus extended, to look for possibility, for how to be the church, the community that is doing the work of reconciliation along with Christ. Now, I just typically like to do this, and I want to end our time by just saying a quick prayer of benediction. And it simply goes like this: May the peace of Christ, let me say that again, may the peace of Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness and protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors. We are so honored that you joined us this morning. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you right back here next week at Icon Church Online. Take care.